Okay, so we are. I fired it up, and again, I got to get used to it. Just I'm going to start tweeting this stuff, whatever.
Yeah, I'll tweet it out right away when I do it too. Sometimes that's doing it right beforehand is not the worst thing. So I'll tweet it out once I can get it up. I don't see it live yet, but
yeah, it's live. It's just like a little delay. That's all.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Okay. So we got a few things changed since this morning, huh?
Well, what's changed? So LMA is out. Yep. And we still don't have word on the Clippers and the Lakers, right?
We don't have word. I don't see any reason other than Kawhi. I could see being worried because that was an actual injury, but I don't. And LeBron's ankle, kind of maybe, but I'm sort of assuming that they're playing, and I'm okay with I have a little bit of LeBron, but I can always pivot over to Davis. I have a little bit of. I don't have that much of Kawhi on DraftKings, but I do have some on FanDuel. And I like Paul George's price on FanDuel, and I don't like him as much on DraftKings anyway. So I don't think it makes that much of a difference for me personally. That's the way I'm looking at that situation.
So what other big changes were there?
Well, LaMarcus Aldridge out is huge. So now we get to play Jakob Poeltl everywhere.
Well, you get to play him. I mean,
go ahead. You can fade him if you want to.
Oh,
there's
Poeltl's been chalked like 5 times, and 3 times he had 8 fantasy points, and 2 of them
I don't look at it like that though. Personally, I look at it. This is a different situation. You have a team that's going to play a big all the time in a team without any other bigs, and he plays a minimum of 20 minutes, and he puts up 20 fantasy points anyway. He actually was in play before this, semi, But now, what else are they going to do? I mean, look at their depth chart here. I'm looking at their depth chart, and it's just there's nobody else they actually play. They can play Trey Lyles, slide him over, but I don't really see that happening. The Lakers play 2 bigs. It's going to be hard. He was going to be somewhat like a long shot play anyway because they don't have any size on this team at all.
No.
And you have Gasol. You're going to have Gasol, Davis, obviously, and at the same time even, and then Harrell off the bench. And maybe he doesn't match up as well with Harrell. Maybe that's where they use Trey Lyles or something like that. But I think Poeltl is fairly good chalk now. Of course, I hate saying that because it could always come back to bite me. I'm pivoting off of him in some spots, but I just am sort of eating it right now. And in my big buy-in lineups, at least he's going to be in those.
Okay. The thing that's kind of that the obvious thing is that from LMA being out is it makes DeRozan even a better play also.
Yeah, DeRozan is going to be the ultimate mega chalk. And I have no problem with that. And I think he's actually maybe he'll be a little lower owned on FanDuel. But I find myself playing him more on DraftKings. I know he's the chalk. I'll eat that part of it. I'm going a little bit different with the rest of my lineup, so I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah. Now again, just in fairness, I do have. It's not like I have 0 Poeltl. I'm playing 20% Poeltl on DraftKings. That's what I'm doing over there. So let's go through the games, and what I have here. This is kind of like my. I don't want to say my single. This is sort of like my original collection that we talked about this morning of my good plays. I just want to see how many of them I really don't want to play anymore.
Okay.
And I can't quite see any reason to get off of any of these guys, with the exception of the fact that there might be better options. But let's go through, I guess, game by game. And I want to address a couple of guys that we kind of talked about earlier, and I want to just ask you again. So I might be getting a little bit of Jeff Teague at 3,900 from this game, and I also might get a little of that guy you mentioned, the Pritchard. Now again, it would have been nice if Tatum were out for those guys to get in there, but I might get a little bit of that. And on the Memphis side, I'm going to play a little of the Bane at 3,300. I mean, this is in addition to the regular plays, right? I'm going to play some Grayson Allen at 3,600 starting. And yeah, I mean, I still think all these guys are just kind of in play. I'm in pure just disclosure. On Yahoo, I built some Yahoo lineups, and for whatever reason, I'm only 7 lineups, whatever. I'm literally 100% Kyle Anderson over there for some reason. I don't know what he's priced over there.
Is he really cheap over there? I don't play on Yahoo, so
yeah.
He, as a cheap play here, there's a lot of guys who are underpriced on this slate who are in that middling tier. Yet somehow I still have Luka in my big buy-ins on DraftKings, not on FanDuel, because I just think it's the best way to go. I just want to I think that do you want to go game by game or do you want to go?
Yeah, we're talking about game by game.
Yeah, sorry.
So, and the other thing is that I think that based on what we talked about, I think that Tice is a great play. I mean, like between Thompson and him, and Tice is 3,900 on FanDuel for openers.
Yeah.
I got a lot of both ends of the spectrum over there. Tice in all the way down and Bam all the way up over there. And I don't think I'm not going to play Robert Williams, although I can certainly see that.
I don't mind the Robert Williams play tonight. But I think that with Tice, I think you're giving up a lot I think you're asking a lot of, I think Podol's in a much better play, but if you want to play Tice, that's fine. It's not like, I don't know I'm trying to look right now and see if I can get some updated ownership. I'm going to guess that it's going to be way higher on Podol. So that's the one thing you could argue for Tice there. But Podol is I don't know. I find myself on DraftKings playing them both together as my just eating up that spot. And actually, I don't see either of them on. Looks like on FanDuel, people are spending up a little bit more at center. Yeah, you've got between them, 35% basically combined between them and leaning towards Podol. So I'm going Podol. I'm basically in all my big buy-ins. He's going to be in those lineups. I'm just going to do it. Sure, I can understand the fading, all this stuff. I just am not going to do it myself.
The other thing is I think Tyus Jones remains like a really, really strong play. Yeah, and I'm probably going to have a decent amount. I have him in my bigger buy-ins.
Yeah, it's an interesting argument with Tyus Jones because I just think Hero's a much better play. And I think that it's odd that people love to just go for the new guy who's doing the thing, and it's just it doesn't really hold up to me. Like, I mean, even the projections are better on Hero, and yet we have Jones projected to be not significantly higher owned, but higher owned. I think Hero is the much better play personally, but I will have some Tyus Jones too, and I'll have some of them together. Actually, it looks like it's slanted a little bit. You know what? It's coming back to normalcy. I had Tyus Jones at twice the ownership as Hero earlier. Now I got Hero slightly ahead of Tyus Jones. So I think Hero is the better play, and Tyus Jones is fine right behind him. I liked what you said about Teague. I actually think that he's a good sneaky play because I think that there's a chance, even if with Pritchard starting and everything, I think there's a decent chance that Teague is could get run. This game could turn into a blowout. So I would treat your Teague lineups a little bit more the blowout-y thing. I don't know if I'd want to play him with Tatum or Brown, but I like him on his own. And I think Marcus Smart is a really good play on FanDuel. I think Marcus Smart is where I'm going instead of just because there's so many steal blocks, so much higher steal block upside than there is with Devontae Graham. So I think Marcus Smart is the better play on FanDuel than Devontae Graham personally.
I'm getting some lineups with both of them actually, with Marcus Smart and Devontae Graham. I like that call. You mentioned that we talked about that a little bit this afternoon when you thought Marcus Smart was going to be a good play. And obviously it would be well, on the one, it would be nice if Tatum were out for usage purposes, but then if that were the case, then ownership would go through the roof also.
Exactly.
And then the other guy again from this game is Brandon Clark, who remains cheap. So
probably more necessary on FanDuel, I would think, than draft.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Atlanta, Brooklyn, they announced starters, and I think DeAndre Hunter is going to start right for Atlanta. So Cam Reddish, and Hunter. So Gallinari, it's upgraded to probable. So I guess he's coming off the bench.
Yeah. That's what I would imagine. I think that was the plan the whole time with him. I don't think he's ever going to start I don't mean he'll start maybe when some of these guys are out, but he's not. I don't think they plan to start him.
And the other interesting thing that we didn't get yet is the starting lineup for the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, that's in 45 minutes, right?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what I don't see almost any way. The only thing that could possibly happen is that it could be I mean, really, the only thing that could be is Taurean Prince or TLC, and neither of them are in play, in my opinion. So I don't think it matters.
Well, what matters is that, all that talk about whether, LeVert is playable as a starter as opposed to coming off of the bench, And and he's cheap enough on FanDuel where I could, you know what I mean, where if I could probably play him. So, and again, I mentioned earlier today that I think I'm going to stick with this. I don't think I'm going to decide based on whether he's coming off. I think that's overthinking it a little bit. I don't know. I feel he's going to get 30 minutes regardless of whether he comes off the bench or starting. And yeah, it'd be, again, when the second unit, he's going to be leading the second unit. But I don't know. I think I might play him a little bit on FanDuel regardless.
Yeah, I'm okay with him a little bit. I like Paul George a lot, whether they play or not. So that's sort of where I've landed. I'm sort of in the Paul George, Marcus Smart, a little bit of a Smart and Graham, like you mentioned, and a little bit of Dylan Brooks. But I don't think I'm going to get to much of LeVert. But I can completely see that being the play that wins you the tournament. You know what I mean? Like there's a path in this game where Brooklyn blows them out and Karis LeVert puts up like 60 fantasy points.
Well, for example, we can look at it. We got a little time. So I mean, this is my one of my bigger buy-ins on FanDuel. This has George and Smart, no Graham. This one's got Harrell, but they paid up for Hayward over here. And I actually have Hayward and PJ Washington together in this lineup. And and I paid up at point guard, and they paid Lillard. I went for Lillard and Kyrie. So that was where I landed over there. So let's I presume you still like Kyrie and Durant, right?
So I like Kyrie and Durant. I'm not playing them both together on DraftKings as much anymore. It's weird because the way the value opened up, it made it really hard to do. And then I really like Bogdanovich and Hero as I just don't see many people playing those exact two guys together with the type of build that I have. And I'm playing DeRozan in my big buy-ins anyway. So I can use those guys and play Podol and Tice at center and still get Doncic in and PJ Washington. And I feel really good about that kind of a build. But I'm playing Bogdanovich to run back on the other side of Durant rather than playing Kyrie and Durant together. On FanDuel, I am playing Kyrie and Durant together. And it's overpaying, and it seems like over whatever people think. It's not. It's a great matchup. It's a ceiling matchup for everybody. And I'm playing Trae Young in that lineup also. I want to get all three of those guys in the same grouping. And just like I have on DraftKings, but I have the same thing, but with Bogdanovich instead.
So what I'm trying to do here, we're going to go through our stuff, and I am looking at the chat here, and I want to try to weave in my comments to address some of the things that are being brought up in the chat. And I'm going to talk about a couple of things that are in here. So John Jenkins is asking how to get different large GPPs tonight. I don't think it's that difficult at all. I mean, I think that there's just very natural pivots that you can make. I mean, and like for example, just the stupid lineup that I put in that this was like 12 o'clock noon lineup, and I could roll with it. When it was 12 o'clock, I thought this was going to be like Uber chalk, and next thing you know, Podol shows up and XYZ shows up and all this. So this has no Tice and this has no Podol. Who's doing that? You know what I mean? So
right.
So I think that on a slate like this, there's a lot of good plays.
And Bam, by the way, who's going to be the other popular one. So
who is?
Bam is going to be the really popular one.
Bam too, right?
Yeah.
So and then the other thing, Eric Johnson is asking, are we stacking the Spurs? Yeah. So here's what I wanted to throw in with the Spurs. If you're gonna do that, it's another guy that I don't know if he's getting any talk, but he was supposed to play some more minutes this year. And on a day like this with no LMA out, I mean, I know he's not like that big, but Rudy Gay might get some decent minutes today. I just kind of thought about that.
Yeah, I've been on that a little bit. I was going to mention him.
Okay.
I'm with you a little bit on that. I also love the guy you brought up earlier in Lonnie Walker.
Okay.
I think you want to get really let's say I actually think that LeBron and AD are on play whether they play regardless. You can switch from LeBron to AD if you need to. Okay. But they're both in whichever one's in play. And you can play on the other side. You can play Rudy Gay and Lonnie Walker and Podol. And instead of going to Rosen, and that's one way to get different by playing the Spurs. Lonnie Walker is not going to get the love, and I think you can play Walker and Gay. Their minutes will stagger a little bit with Gay and DeRozan somewhat. They'll play together too, of course, but I think that there's a chance, it's just a good way to get like lower ownership on a really good spot. I probably wouldn't want to play DeRozan as well as those guys unless I had played LeBron or AD. But I think my main plan is to play 3 of the Spurs where I'm playing LeBron or AD. That's
interesting. So you really want to make sure to run back a Laker when you're playing a bunch of Spurs, huh?
Well, think about what we're doing by stacking the Spurs. We really want to just stack the Spurs against one of the best defenses and probably the best team in the NBA. I don't really want to do that without having a run back. And the thing is, the run backs are LeBron is. I mean, look, this is last year he's 10-5. He's 9,800 in this game. It's an up-paced matchup for them. It's a good matchup. They don't really have good matchups for either he or Anthony Davis. So I'm into this, man. I don't think that this news is great. Like this, I don't think that LaMarcus Aldridge stuff is as big of news for DeJounte Murray, but I still like him anyway. But I want to get, some of these guys are just too cheap, especially on DraftKings. And if I'm going to do that, why wouldn't I want to run back LeBron or AD?
Hold that thought, because I want to answer that question when we talk about Charlotte Dallas also, because I have this kind of theory that I want to apply to both the Charlotte Dallas game and the LA San Antonio game. We'll get there. Let's first talk about Milwaukee Miami. You already alluded to Bam being a really, really good play on certainly on DraftKings, and with the value that exists on FanDuel, you can certainly get there if you want. Bam's a good play. Hero remains a really, really good play. And you know what I like? I like that. I like going back, and you brought this up in the early thing, is to go back to Dragic coming off of that terrible performance yesterday. Like he was really chalky yesterday. He's going to be a hell of a lot less owned today, and especially on FanDuel, whatever. I'm kind of into that.
I want to point out that I think there's a mistake with that, though. Like, I think that the ownership on DraftKings is going to be similar between he and Hero, which actually I don't think it's a mistake. I think it actually shows that the industry is really sharp, but sometimes can be a little bit too sharp.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that Hero's that he's not a better play than Hero. I don't think he's a better play than Hero. I think Hero's a better play. But I just think it's bizarre to me that even after that last night, that people would play these guys the same percentages at basically the same price. I just don't understand it. To me,
I don't think they will.
I don't think they will either. But I think it's going to be closer than you think. I think it's going to be like 25, and one's 25 and one's like 17 or something.
On the Milwaukee side, in addition to Giannis, if you want to play him, I like Middleton a little bit. So I was also fiddling around with, just because I had 40-something hundred, whatever I needed for DiVincenzo. Mm-hmm. I fiddle around with him. He's just so consistent. You know what I mean? Like, I just know what I'm getting from him, I think. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned earlier, like sometimes you just need a guy that's going to do what you want. Not what you really need. You know what I mean? Like, you just so if I play him and he gets his 20 fantasy points, I'll be like fine. But I think I don't know why I like Middleton, but I like Middleton a little bit, and I'm getting some Giannis probably more than I should, but I'm getting some.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of Giannis, but I have a little bit. I prefer Drew to Middleton, but again, the position.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I got it too.
The position scarcity, though, the position whole ability or whatever the positions. I think that would slant towards Middleton. So I do prefer Drew overall. That's just where I'm at. But I don't really like this. I don't like the Milwaukee side of this very much at all. It's really going to be mostly Dragic, Hero, and Bam for me. And I'm actually not playing as much Bam as I initially thought I would be today. I don't feel great about it, but I decided to do the double center thing because I just felt like it got me the lineup that I wanted enough places. And I can also pay down for Pritchard, who we mentioned before. But Pritchard, by the way, is a totally fine, like a good play. I know I didn't really touch on him as much, but I think the Teague is going to be like 1/3 the ownership and probably has a higher upside. Probably like similar. Pritchard will get his floor, his median enough. He'll get enough for you often enough. He'll get you in the 20 to 25 range, I think, enough here. And I think he can even get up to 30. So there's a lot of cheap value options, and there's a lot of ways you can go different on this slate.
Yeah, Eric, we're getting there. We're going to get to Portland in a second.
Yeah, it's always hard because when we do the chat thing, because if we go game by game, everybody jumps to the last.
We'll get there. So Charlotte, Dallas. I still like the same guys from Charlotte as I did earlier. I still like P.J. Washington a bunch. Devontae Graham, fine. Rozier, not as much. I just like different point guards, I think, on FanDuel. And I still like Bismack a little bit. Certainly, they're better center plays, but I do like him. And I think that that's a very stackable situation. You know, you play a couple of these Charlotte guys with the Luka run back. Or you can say you want to play Luka with the Charlotte run backs, however you want to say, you know. And yeah, that's fine. And then on the Dallas side, yeah, Luka's a great play. The other guy that you brought up, which I'm kind of getting into maybe a little more than I should, but I'm going to probably play maybe 15, 20% on DraftKings, is Trey Burke. You know, it's you know, high variance. Don't try this at home, obviously. Get 6 fantasy points, but I'm going to probably put him in. The other thing is that we've been waiting for not we've been waiting, but I mentioned earlier that, boy, if Richardson is out, then maybe you want to play DFS. But if Richardson's playing, why not play him? So I don't mind Jay Rich a little bit. But here's my rant about the Charlotte Dallas game, and it's Lakers San Antonio as well. So when people have a situation where you have one stud who's like an 11-point favorite, right? This is what you hear a lot. It's with Giannis, it's with Luka, with AD, LeBron, whatever. They say, if I want to play these other guys, I want to have them in lineups with LeBron or whatever. And the logic is that if the only way that LeBron and whoever is going to get a ceiling is if these other guys on the other team get a ceiling to keep the game close, right? But let me suggest to you that there's another explanation and kind of flies in the face of that. There's the one way that the game could be close is if those guys from the bad team have ceilings, and the studs just put in median projections. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, because if this stud is going to put up a ceiling, the game's not going to be close. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that's so it's not that easy just to say, you know, if I want to play the run back, you know, if I want to play the stud, if I want to play the stud, I better make sure to have these other guys. I don't feel as though that both of those things should really be able to have ceilings and it be a close game. You know, I don't know. I'll just throw that out there. So, so with that said, I like Luka and I like the Charlotte guys running back.
Yeah, I'm playing Luka more on DraftKings than I am on FanDuel. I don't want to burst your bubble, but I do think that Trey Burke might actually get some ownership. I actually have him projected at the same ownership right now as Pritchard. I'm not sure that'll actually work out that way. I would prefer Pritchard much more security in the minutes, probably more security in the usage, because it's Trey Burke playing with Luka is not exactly ideal, but he won't be out there with him that much. I just don't see him playing enough minutes. So I switched over to Pritchard a little bit, but I think it's at similar ownership. If that's really the way it's going to go down, I think we play Pritchard.
But I have them both exactly 12%.
Yeah, in your lineups?
No. In my ownership projections.
Oh, I've got him around 16, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think 12% sounds more right for Burke, and probably 16 to 20 or something for it's hard though, because you really don't want to use up these guard spots. There's a lot of good guard plays. I mean, I mentioned Bogdanovich before. We talked about Hero. I like Kyrie or Trae Young as a spend up. And you know, before I know we're going to get to the game, but I'll answer Eric's question. Why is no one on Dame? Look at Dame's numbers with Nurkic on the team. He's basically like a 45-ish fantasy point per game scorer. He's the most expensive of all these guys and the least productive in general. Now, sure, he could always have the outlier game and blow it up tonight. There's no logical reason to think this will be a good time to do it. It's a terrible matchup for him. Absolutely terrible. Couldn't be worse of a matchup for him. And but again, we've seen Dame go nuts at any given time. So I just don't have interest myself that much. He makes more sense on FanDuel than he does on DraftKings, but that's the reason why no one's playing him. He's just an inferior play to all the other guys.
I guess we talked about the Lakers in San Antonio, right?
Yeah. We didn't really get into both sides of it. I do think that LeBron and AD are getting completely overlooked on this slate.
Well, by the way, you know it's his birthday, right?
It's LeBron's birthday, which gives me even more of a reason to play him. I'm into it, man. I mean, I'm not going crazy with it or anything, but I will have him in a few spots, and it does feel like the kind of game where one of those two guys, assuming LeBron plays, I would prefer LeBron. But if for some reason he's out, AD obviously becomes like the best play on the slate.
Yep.
So let's not be recency bias. You know, we know what these guys can do. Here's an interesting question. RJ is asking, is Tice considered a better play than Williams? If so, why? Will there be a big difference in ownership? So there will be a difference in ownership. Tice is projected to start. Now, if we heard Williams was starting for some reason, I think that would be different. I think Tice is probably on – I'm not sure Williams' minutes are actually going to change all that much in this game. And we could see it split down the middle and it could burn us. But I just prefer look, the better play of all of them, in my opinion, is the chalk Podol. But I think Tice is a better play than Williams because he's probably going to play, I don't know, probably 9 more minutes, 8 more minutes, maybe even more. And he'll probably close the games because Williams doesn't usually close. So I prefer Tice, but I certainly understand the Williams pivot. I think it's a solid pivot.
Who do you think is and then we'll get to the last game. Who do you think is the most popular player on the slate? Probably DeRozan, right?
I would guess it'd be DeRozan or maybe Podol.
Or Bam.
I think it's DeRozan or Podol. We didn't mention Tatum before, but Tatum is an awesome play. The problem is he's an also mega chalk guy. And if you're going to have Tatum at higher ownership than KD at a slightly higher price with KD in the ceiling matchup game and possible blowout game in Boston, let's just play KD instead. That's right. We're on the same page there, right, Sheets?
Yeah. And dude, you're right, man. I'm looking at I have Dragic, like you said, like just almost like even a little higher owned than Harrow on DraftKings.
That's bizarre. It's just nuts. I mean, it's
well, and I promise you it's not going to be the case on FanDuel. How about that?
Yeah, and I'm gonna just go out on a limb and say that most of these projections are a little bit goofy today. They just don't quite feel right to me.
Yeah, but what's interesting though, I mean, this is one of the things I do. I might compare like different sources.
Yeah.
One thing I kind of look at is like where there's any real variance between some of them, and with those guys, it's pretty consistent across the board actually. With the ownership projections, like there's some that are like different. Like you see like different like Jaylen Brown. Different on Tice a little bit, but those guys are already very similar. It's weird.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So with respect to the Portland game, dude, Eric, I'm playing some game on FanDuel.
Yeah, on FanDuel.
Yeah, let's. I'm in. I mean, look. We talked about this earlier today. I don't know if you watched the early stuff, but there are guys that have that I always want to play. You know, I always want to play Lillard. I always want to play Levine. I always want to play, you know, just guys like that, you know, and guys who have the ball in their hands when they feel like it. And, you know, I like it. So I'm going to play some game. I got a full 33% of him on FanDuel. DraftKings is a little harder. You know, he's just a little bit too expensive over there. But I wonder if I have any Lillard on DraftKings. I don't think so.
Is that none of the three are going to be that – they're not going to – look, Kyrie will be the most popular on FanDuel between the three spend ups at guard, but it's not like we're talking about massive differences. Maybe there will be. Maybe he'll be 25 or 24%, and Dame will be like 14 or something. That's sort of the range I'm sort of guessing. Maybe 15, somewhere between 14 and 16 or so. It's just
on FanDuel or DraftKings?
On FanDuel.
Okay, on DraftKings, I think Dame is going to be like 3%. Yeah,
he's not going to be owned on DraftKings. Which makes him a good play, but I'm personally not doing it in my big buy and stuff. It doesn't make sense. It's so many things have to go right. He's 700 less than Luka. Like, I mean, there's just a lot that has to go right. Even if he puts up 65, that may not be good enough because Luka could put up 75 and he's only 700 more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And with respect to the Portland side, again, going back to that game, I mean, I still can't get away from what's his face from Covington. It's 4,700 playing 35 minutes. I mean, like, and he's not that he's terrible. It's not like he's some. I was about to use a name that you were going to fight me on. So I was going to say he's not some Royce O'Neal guy who's never going to do anything.
By the way, Royce O'Neal nailed it the other night for us.
I know.
Unfortunately, I had the injury with Jaw in all those lineups, but you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked O'Neal that night at 1%, and then oddly enough, on an 11 game slate the next night, he was 18% or 8%, which I thought was weird.
And Covington will not be 1% tonight. Covington will be like between 15 and 20% tonight. But I'm chilled with that. I mean, again, it's just I'm not I shouldn't say this. I was saying I'm not expecting him to break the slate for me, but why can't he get 40 fantasy points? I mean, like, I've seen it happen.
Absolutely can. He absolutely, totally with you. Totally could. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
I mean, who knows? I mean, the guy always can get rebounds. He always gets steals, and he's another guy. He's not exactly the same. But we talked about a guy last night, like Kelly Oubre, who was like 0 for the world from the field in his first couple of games, and I think Covington is very similar. I mean, like so. The problem is that if you got C.J. McCollum and Lillard out there, if you're not making your shots, you're just not going to take anymore. You don't need to. Yeah, I mean, it just seems like uber safe to me.
Yeah, I mean, he always feels uber safe, and then he puts up like 16 fantasy points. But
really, okay,
he has tons of games like that. I mean, look at the season. I don't know, has he scored 25 fantasy points in a game this season?
No,
that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but you're right. His PPA scored 22, and 12. But look, I'm still playing him too. I'm not playing him on DraftKings, actually.
Okay.
I'm not playing him. I'm not going to correct myself. I'm not playing my high buy-in stuff on DraftKings except for one medium buy-in. But on FanDuel, I am going to play him in my main lineups. And I'm actually debating my main lineup, a 2v2, to try and get a little different between Covington and Kleber and Brandon Clark and Kuzma. Not even necessarily different. It's just I sort of have them rated about the same. And I really want to spend down up there at all the big spots, on power forward and center, because I really want to get all these guards in that I really want, and I want to get KD in at small forward on FanDuel. And we got just that'll bring me to answer this question. On FanDuel, would I pair Trey with Durant instead of Kyrie? I would play all three of them together mostly. In my big buy-in tournaments, I have all three of those guys together primarily. You're playing for the game to go fully nutso. I think Kyrie's a better play than Trey is, but I do think that they're right there. They're all right in the same range. It's a great matchup, and that'll answer another question. Eric said, "Who's your favorite game stack?" That's my favorite game stack of the day. Is Brooklyn and Atlanta. Well,
and here's another thing that we talked about a little earlier today is Derek Jones Jr. Yeah, I mean Carmelo's back, but Derek Jones Jr. at 3,600. Like if I have Covington and my lineups are just struggling a little bit, I would totally pivot to Derek Jones Jr. I would presume much lower ownership. I don't know. Who the hell knows? And then I'm looking at Gary Trent.
Wait, who would you play him in over?
Like if Covington.
Oh. Wait, but they're not like 1v1s though. They're like totally different prices and different.
Not exactly. I mean, yeah, it's like 1,200 less or something like that.
Yeah. Where is he? 1,200 less. I think he's like 2K less or 1,500 less.
He's 3,600 and.
Oh, on DraftKings.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. To me it's a different price tier.
And again, I don't know why I'm making too much a big deal about this game, but then you have Gary Trent, who is Gary Trent is questionable. I just gotta watch this. I don't want to I don't want to forget to watch this stuff. So if all of a sudden Gary Trent's out, then they say Rodney Hood is starting at like 3K or something like that. You know what I mean? I want to just make sure that I'm paying attention. That's all. Clipper side, presuming they both play, I do like both of them. I do. I like Kawhi. I like George. I don't like them both together. And the other guy I like is it's kind of hard for Batum, I think, to get there with both of them in there. But he did the other day before Kawhi got pulled out of the game. Batum already got there.
Yeah, we just don't need it on these slate. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like we're just reaching for no reason. You know what I'm saying? That's how it feels to me a little bit.
All right.
I would take Covington over him every day. That's all I said.
And then on the Clipper side, I would definitely consider playing some Zubac on FanDuel at center.
Yeah, he's not in it for me, but I understand where you're coming from. I like it as sort of like a weird pivot off of everything else, but I would probably prefer Grant Williams in that situation. I'm just going to try and answer some questions. There was a couple one that was good. Emmanuel asked if I like Maxey or Kuzma better on FanDuel. I think if you have the money, Kuzma's probably the right play, but it's close. And I think especially because we don't entirely know that LeBron's playing, even though we all are under that assumption. But if LeBron's out, then Kuzma becomes a much better play. So I think I would lean Kuzma there. but you can always pivot to if you want to later. I'm playing more Kleber, but I literally need the 300. That's why I'm playing more Kleber. So I that's the way I'd go. Also, they're probably going to be Kleber probably slightly lower owned for namesake value, and also Kleber can have those 5 block games like he does, and all of a sudden he got you there already, and he hasn't even scored a point or rebounded anything yet. So I thought that was kind of interesting. We just got the Heat starting lineup, and this is actually pretty relevant. Andre Iguodala is starting, and the reason that's relevant to me is the Heat are a proud team. They're not a team that gets blown out the doors off of like ever. And the fact that he's actually starting, I feel like is sort of a sign that he might actually get more run than what any projection systems will give him. And they'll try and match him up with Giannis, and they want to try and put their best foot forward in this game. It makes me like Dragic. It makes me like Hero even more when you see something like that. But I really I think that he's going to be in it. I think he's in play, especially where we need to save at small forward. I'm going to take a quick look at where I have him projected for minutes. I know it's going to take a minute for them to update because he wasn't going to be starting. But so like Iguodala, I wouldn't put him ahead of Pritchard and all these other guys. But because of his position, there are some lineup builds that I had where I ran into trouble getting value at small forward, and Iguodala does fit over there. So I think that's not a bad idea at all.
I think that Iguodala starting to play Giannis makes me like Giannis a little bit. I don't know.
He's the second best defender of all time on the wing, and
he's the best defender of all time. That's like Mike Tyson was the best boxer of all time too. He still didn't look that great the other day. I mean, Iguodala was 100 years old.
He was spectacular when they played him in the playoffs. He doesn't do anything offensively. That's his problem. He's a 7% usage guy in the postseason last year. He was, and he. I still think he's one of the best defenders.
Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over a couple of things. This is maybe we'll make this a point. I'm going to go over guys that like my top. This is what I'm going to do for everything. I'm going to say my top guys from an ownership perspective. Then I'm going to talk about 1 or 2 guys that I have way too much of and know it, and a couple guys I have way too little of and know it. Right, and I'm really not changing anything. So I think my top owned guy is DeRozan at 40%, which is big. Actually, it's Covington at 44%. I have Bam at 50%. Then this is a good. I have Nurkic at 40%. That's a neat little bit of leverage.
I like that quite a lot, and I actually think he had some traction earlier, but it sort of faded away with all this value. So I actually think it's a really
you know what? I got like 60% Tice, which is it is what it is. So the guys that I have too much of, there's one guy that really is standing out here is doing this, and that's I have a full 40% of Chris Middleton. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's not a bad play. I mean, I guess I'll go through my guys if we're going to be doing that. Then
let me just finish. And then the guy I have too little of, as I mentioned before, is what's his face? Is the Podol, I think, on DraftKings. And there's 2 other guys that I have probably too much of. I have full 20% of Burke. I have a full 20%, maybe almost a full 20% of Pritchard, which is kind of scary.
Well, now Teague is starting. Pritchard was supposed to start. I still expect Pritchard to close for them. That's what he's been doing.
Okay.
So I actually think that he's become a better tournament play than he was before.
What do you got?
What's that?
What do you got?
Well, my guys are I'm 100% Kevin Durant on DraftKings. I don't have one lineup without him. I have 55% Bogdanovich, 58% Hero, which I actually would like to be higher, but again, there's a lot of options. I have 40% Pritchard, 40% Covington, 65% Kyrie, and 35% Trey Young.
Nice.
And then I'm loading up on. I'm really into this Atlanta. I really wish I could find a good way to stack all of those guys together in one of my DraftKings, but I'm happy just to go with the Durant, Bogdanovich thing. There's too much value opened up, and I've got 25% Luka, but I've also got him in my biggest buy-in tournaments.
I was kind of a little bit of a Wimpenstein. I don't really have like a huge stand. I guess you know what? I guess my huge stand is that maybe I have 25% Hero. Maybe that's my huge stand.
What's what? Oh, you're not playing that much Hero.
I only have 25% Hero. Maybe that's my.
That's a huge stand in my opinion. Honestly, to me, the ownership at 50 whatever percent is projected to be is way low on him.
I agree.
I think it should be like 75 or 85%. I really do. So I've got him like 90%. I mean, on FanDuel, I just don't think I build hardly any lineups without him in there. There's a few in my script that might have come through, but I just absolutely love him. Ways to get different on FanDuel, in my opinion, are playing Anthony Davis. He's not going to be way off the board, but trying to get that sort of exposure to that part of the game. Playing some Karis LeVert, even though as we mentioned that I'm not playing him in my DraftKings lineups much, but I do really like him on FanDuel. Another guy who's sort of overlooked today you can get different with is Duncan Robinson. I'd prefer him on DraftKings, but again, it's just hard with the positions because they're so strong at the guards.
Yeah, you talk about being different. I have a full 15% of it on freaking FanDuel. It's pretty brutal. But no one's going to play him there because of the.
Yeah, no, I've got him too. I mean, I've got him in some of my lineups over here. I'm looking at right now, and I like some Dragic on FanDuel just because of the price, and play all three of those guys and run it back with Giannis. Why not? You know what I mean? It's if the game stays close, you're going to have to imagine that all of Dragic, Robinson, and Hero will have to have pretty solid games, or most of the time.
So what am I doing? So I have so we got to watch for stupid AD and LeBron, Kawhi and Paul George, and I get and then just be on the lookout for anything else. The random Jamal Murray rule out. I mean, give me a break with that. And yeah, I guess we're all done.
Yeah, I think we're good, guys. Any last questions? I'm just taking a look in chat.
Yeah, who's your favorite late game play?
Okay, good question, Kyle. Let me take a quick look at who have. I guess the obvious one is DeRozan.
That's a late game.
Yeah, well, they're playing the Lakers, so it's got to be right. Oh, it's in. Yeah, I forgot San Antonio. 6 p.m. So there's only one. Which game?
Right.
We're talking one game.
It's just the Portland game, I guess.
I think he's counting that. Maybe he's not. I don't know. Okay, so in the Portland game, my most used player on FanDuel is Paul George, and Paul George and Covington, and Covington and Nurkic on DraftKings.
Yeah, Covington's my favorite play in that game, and favorite cheap center on FanDuel for me it's Tice, but considering he might get some, I do like Tice more than is Poeltl even a center on FanDuel?
Yeah.
Or he
he's a center. If he wasn't, then he would be like the easiest.
Yeah, so I do like Tyson. I do, and then I like and as if you want to pivot, again, don't try this at home, but you can play Zubac at 4,100 or 4,200.
Totally. I'm into it. I actually think that's kind of an interesting call, and I didn't think of it earlier on, but I think it's a wild one to go for.
But you know who's going to break the slate? Oh, dude, we got to try this again. I got to play the late slate. I got to go back to Whiteside.
Oh my God!
Oh wait, he's not on the court.
Wait. Damn it. Yeah, he's on Sacramento again.
Oh crap. Okay. All right.
Anyway, all right. I think we covered it, guys. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I know this more and more of you guys are coming in. It's really nice. QQ any Rondo, absolutely zero Rondo for me. And I heard people talk about Rondo, and it made me realize how there's still a huge edge in DFS.
Ooh. Laying it down.
I mean, I don't care if it works out once because somebody gets hurt or something, but to play Rondo in a 12-man deep thing when he hasn't played more than 15 minutes, it just makes no sense. It's reaching beyond reaching. And I heard other guys talk about him, and I'm like, wow, you guys just keep giving out terrible advice, and people will find us because we're not going to tell them to play Rajon Rondo. Of course, here comes the Rondo triple-double tonight, of course. But anyway, that's just my Rondo thing. Yes, guys, thanks so much. We really appreciate you being here, and it's been a lot of fun to have you back and have some basketball back. And let's kill it tonight. One of us should take down the big one. So amongst the 50 of you and me and Sheets, one of us are going to win the big one tonight.
Sounds good to me.
All right, guys, I'm out of here. Take it easy.
I'll talk to you later.
See you, bud.